I've decided to take a position with a club, Westchester Eagles. They're based at Spring City, just outside of Philadelphia. They've got a very good record and reputation. They've been established for about 5 years. So my position will be one of head coach, and I'll be looking after the development of their players right from their introductory phase right through to under-19s. Very, very similar role with what I've been doing for the last 15 years at Brisbane Women's Hockey. They have just won the National Club Champions for under-14s, 16s and 19s for, I believe, the second year in a row. So hopefully I can enrich their programs and help that continued success that they've enjoyed for the last 12 months to 2 years.
Well, Sharyn, I've known you as the coach here in Brisbane for the last couple of years, but I've also learnt a lot about your background. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how you got involved in hockey?
Well, I blame netball because I was actually trialling for a netball team, and back then there was some sort of height regulations, and those people that know me realise I'm pretty vertically challenged, so I didn't make the netball team. I was pretty cut up about that, and my auntie played hockey, and she said, why don't you try hockey? And I haven't really looked back since then. I also tried to be a goalkeeper, but the pads were too big and they couldn't find a set of pads to fit me, so I ended up playing on the field. So sometimes things are meant to happen for a reason. Well, I was brought up in Maryborough, and that's where I first started playing hockey. Long history with Maryborough, came through the ranks, playing under 13s, primary school girls, senior women for Maryborough, and made Queensland teams from playing with Maryborough. Probably through my Queensland representation, and whilst I was still in Maryborough, that was when I was first identified by Hockey Australia, or women's hockey back in them days, and made my first Australian squad just before the 1980 Olympics. Well, it's been, documented quite a bit, but obviously it's a long time ago. At the time, I was fairly naive. On making the 1980 Olympic team, obviously I was, ecstatic. However, naive in the fact that there were other things to play. And when we didn't get to go, it was a decision by Women's Hockey Australia not to compete. I was sort of okay with it and didn't really question it at the time, obviously bitterly disappointed. But being so young, I thought, oh well, I'll just make the next Olympics, which didn't actually happen for me. So I had to deal with a whole lot of extra disappointment previous to the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. Yeah, I suppose going to the Olympics was always on my bucket list, but not everyone gets to go to Olympics. I was fortunate that around about 1995 I was asked to manage the Australian junior teams, and through that I got the opportunity to be second in charge to the 2000 Sydney Olympics. So I went with a lot of Australian development teams, and then 2002 I started to move up to the Hockey Roos and manage them. Then 2004 came around and was fortunate enough to be appointed manager for the Athens Olympics. So 24 years later, I finally got to go to the Olympics. So I was, it's probably one of the most exciting times in my life.
So Sharyn, as one of our top players and one of our top coaches, you've been around the world a bit. Tell us a couple of the stories.
I think one of my first experiences travelling overseas was when I went to Argentina in 1981 as a player for the World Cup. Back in those days there were no direct flights to Buenos Aires. You literally had to go around the world to get there. So the whole process took, I think, 40-something hours. We went to Los Angeles, across down to Miami, down to Montevideo, and then across to Buenos Aires. So it was very long. I suppose back then, 1981 in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, a very different place to what it is today. It was at the end of a huge political upheaval, so there was curfews in place, there was restrictions to our movements. We had guards that guarded us, and they had big machine guns. So a little country girl from Maryborough, I'd only seen machine guns on TV, not literally there, in our face. So that was a little scary, but a huge experience as well.
Now, what about as a manager? Because that often offers different challenges.
I always joke that I was going to write a book one day with all my managing experiences. You need the best negotiation skills ever, because some of the things you just can't predict. They just happen, and you have to just go by your instincts and just try to have to make the best of a difficult situations. I think we had snowstorms one time and delayed a whole lot of flights in Europe, and we were stuck in South Africa. I had to make a decision to get on this plane, negotiate these flights, which meant we had to change a test match. So I had to literally stand out in front of the crowd to apologise, why we had changed the test match, and wasn't received very well. There was a lot of boos actually, and then we literally had to run off the field, jump on the bus, and then be escorted. I walked in, and there were all these people had been bumped off this flight to make room for us, and the lady said, if a player doesn't walk in this door in the next 30 seconds, you're all off. And that meant we would have been stuck in South Africa for about a week. So I was just, the heart was racing, and next minute the girls came through the door, but there were a lot of angry passengers, a lot of angry South Africans on that trip as well.
So Sharyn, it sounds like you've been to America before. What are your experiences there? But also, what are you looking for? Why are you off to America?
I've been to America for holidays, and long time ago when I was a player. I think what I'm looking for is, it's very much still a developing phase. Girls don't play hockey there, or they're not introduced to hockey until they're about at school, high school, so about under 16. This particular club has started introducing hockey at under 9 level, so it'll be really great to be involved from that process right from the start, so it's very new. I guess just feeling that I can bring something different, and they've given me a great sense of feeling very valued for what I've got to offer, and our uniqueness in Australia and our hockey and Queensland hockey. I guess they want a little bit of that too as well.
Well, Sharyn, you've been a central and integral part of both Queensland and Brisbane women's hockey. Yeah. Been there for 15 years. So what are your memories, and what do you take from this?
I've actually had a little bit of time to reflect just recently on the last 15 years. I'm quite sad at leaving Brisbane women's hockey, but very proud of the association, proud of my contribution in the 15 years that I've been there. I can remember when I first started, Kath Proctor showing me the way into the Downing Park clubhouse downstairs, and there was only 2 people employed back then, and now there's 5 plus a whole lot more part-time people as well. So we've really grown, we've really developed as an association, and the programs that we now provide for all of our players is just enormous. I started doing a little bit of a diary of when I first started to when I'm now going to finish on the 4th of October, and all the things that the job has entailed and all the things that we've achieved. So I'm really proud of leaving the association, especially the player and coach development area, in a pretty healthy place as well.
So on a local scene, what would you say was your high point? Last year, under-18s national champions?
Oh.
Is that the big one for you?
I think having been involved with at club level, and then regional level and state level, there's different ones. Obviously, coming into club finals, being a life member of St Andrews, that's a huge one. From a regional perspective, I would have to say the Super League win this year. It's been a thing about Brisbane-born players and what's a Brisbane player that I've had a little bit of an ongoing battle with certain people about, so I was really pleased that we managed to do that. And from a Queensland perspective, definitely the under-18s last year was a huge high as well. I really enjoyed working with pretty much any team, but my involvement with the girls, and some of the girls that I started coaching 15 years ago, had babies, and I've been, there through that whole time, which says something about my age and their age as well. But I just consider myself, I've said it before, just such you know, a real privilege to be part of their lives and part of their hockey life, I guess.
Well, Sharyn, I've had a lot of fun with you in the last couple of years. I think there's probably a couple of bloopers that will live on in everyone's memory locally. But I'd like to wish you all the best. I hope that the Americans realise what a treasure they're stealing from Brisbane. And I think your presence will be sorely missed here. So all the best for the future, Sharyn.
Thanks, Paul. And I've no doubt that actually getting on the plane in around about 21st of October is going to be pretty hard, and I'm going to miss so much about Queensland. I'm going to miss so much about hockey in Queensland, hockey in Australia, but I hope that it works out all right over there too as well. Thanks again.